Extendivite's 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday, sure happy it's Thursday, sure happy it's Thursday. We have a lot to talk about today, and as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news. Then we'll open up the phone lines for your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. So let's get right on into it. I'm going to start with the international news today because there's a lot going on we need to pay attention to. And it starts with an article out of the Moscow Times that Russia is going to begin withdrawing its military forces from the Ukrainian border starting tomorrow. And obviously the buildup had raised alarms, all over the place about a pending invasion. And Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said it was, after all, a training exercise, and the exercise is now over, so they're going to be pulling their forces and material back. Now, we had been hearing all these stories about 100,000 troops and thousands of tanks, and it turns out the Russians were practicing a trick, if you will, a deception left over from World War II. They have military units that have, for lack of a better word, balloon weapons, inflatable tanks, inflatable guns. They don't really work, obviously, but seen from a distance, it can trick the enemy into thinking that your artillery and armor is someplace where it is not. This was used to great effect in World War II, and Russia apparently has units trained to do exactly the same thing now, and that may be where some of these inflated numbers of the Russian presence actually came from. Another story, this one out of Global Research, talking about, was it really Russia threatening Ukraine? Because after all, it's the United States that has transformed Russia's border with Ukraine into a dangerous hotspot, and we need to go back to that U.S.-supported coup d'etat in Kiev that ousted the legitimate elected government of Ukraine and replaced it with a Western-centric junta, which is what triggered the Donbass and Crimea to break away. So we need to realize that the Russian Federation is now 30 years old following the collapse of the Soviet Union, and during that 30 years, the Russian Federation has not attacked or threatened or invaded another country. That is, of course, in sharp contrast to the U.S.-dominated NATO, which has gone into Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq and all Somalia and all these other places around the world, and, we're bringing democracy and the American way of life to these people, which I'm sure those countries are looking at what's going on in America today and saying, the American way really doesn't look all that attractive right now, with critical race theory and LGBTQ and wokeness and, cultural cancellation going on. It's not really an attractive thing to other countries. Meanwhile, over in the Senate, the Russian hawks have passed a bill to ramp up lethal aid to Ukraine. They authorized $300 million in annual military aid to Ukraine for things like military hardware, artillery, ammunition, as well as training for the Ukrainian troops. So, as a matter of fact, it does seem to be that it's the United States that is really goading the situation along there between Russia and Ukraine. Now, Ukraine's President Zelensky is saying his nation is ready for war, and he signed a bill to call up Ukrainian reservists. And meanwhile, the United States and Britain are boosting military training and assistance. So we can see who the real aggressors are here in that part of the world. Now, over at antiempire.com, they're asking a really pertinent question. Why was it okay for Ukraine to break away from the Soviet Union, but not for Crimea to break away from Ukraine? And, if you're from my age, you remember when Ukraine broke away from the Soviet Union, everybody cheered, for the Ukrainians, and it's going to be wonderful. But when Crimea said, hey, that's not our government in Kiev anymore, we want to go our own way, which is their right under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and all of a sudden we had the media and our politicians talking about maintaining the territorial integrity of Ukraine, and we can't let Crimea wander on off and become friends with the Russians. So it always seems like whether these secessions are good or bad really is kind of a movable feast in terms of U.S. strategic interests. Meanwhile, Ukraine's State Security Service announced yesterday it had detained around 60 people that pro-Russian political forces had sent to stage protests in the eastern city of Kharkiv as a way to justify possible acts of Russian aggression against Ukraine. So the SBU Security Service said those detained had been dispatched to stir up public anger in Kharkiv, one of the largest cities in Ukraine, located 186 miles from territory seized by pro-Russian separatists in 2014. They did not provide any evidence whatsoever to support these allegations. Now, the new U.S. ambassador to Belarus met with the country's exiled opposition leader, Sviatlana, I'm going to try and say that 3 times fast, Sviatlana Tsikhanovskaya, I actually did that, on Wednesday in a provocative message to Belarusian President Lukashenko. Now remember, we're still dealing with the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Lukashenko, which he is saying was backed by the United States. Now, the meeting between the U.S. ambassador to Belarus and the opposition leader took place in Lithuania, where Tsikhanovskaya has been living since she fled Belarus after losing the controversial presidential election last August. So it looks like the United States is getting ready to try and replace the government of Belarus as well. Another story, this one coming out of Russia today. Ukraine is asking the European Union to consider cutting off Russia from the SWIFT payment system. Kiev is trying to find more sanctions against Moscow. They're poking the bear as hard as they can. But there was another article that came out from the Moscow Times saying it's really not that big a deal, and Russian banks don't really need to be that scared of being disconnected from SWIFT because there are now parallel systems in operation that Russia can avail itself of. Okay. Down in the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte has said he is prepared to send his military ships into the South China Sea. And again, it just seems like there's so much saber rattling going on. Up in Afghanistan, Biden's orderly exit is already in trouble because of suicide attacks, particularly one that hit Kabul. And the Taliban has vowed a nightmare for U.S. troops should they stay past May 1st, which was the deadline for withdrawal set by former President Donald Trump. And so this article is asking, are we going to start seeing a massive uptick of violence against the U.S. forces inside Afghanistan? And I would say it's entirely possible. Meanwhile, a summit that had been planned for the Afghan peace process has been postponed as the Taliban refuses to attend. The Taliban just wants the U.S. to leave and for Afghanistan to go back under the rule of the Afghan people. Now, remember your history. It was their defeat in Afghanistan that was the first step in the eventual destruction of the former Soviet Union. So we need to keep our eye on that because more and more pundits are coming on out and saying, yeah, we lost this one. The United States did not achieve any kind of a victory, either politically or propagandistically, inside Afghanistan. And there's a reason they call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires, and empires from the Soviet Union to Great Britain have learned that to their own remorse. Remember, the last military commander to completely conquer Afghanistan was Alexander the Great, and he only held it for 3 years. Down in Israel, pardon me, air raid sirens were sounding near the Dimona Weapons Development Center. A missile was fired supposedly from Syria, and Israel is saying they shot it down. Syria is saying it simply missed the target, and Israel has retaliated, bombing targets in Damascus in retaliation for this missile attack. And I don't know about the wisdom of shooting missiles at anybody's nuclear reactor, whether it's Israel's or Iran, because you're going to spread radioactivity all around the place and make it look like another Chernobyl or even worse, another Fukushima. Article came on out in Stark Realities, and they're reminding us all that every dollar of aid to Israel is illegal under United States law. And they start out saying that this year alone, the U.S. government is going to send $3.8 billion with a B of your tax dollars to the government of Israel. And this is a violation of 2 specific laws. Israel is a nuclear power. They have somewhere above 200 nuclear warheads, but they have never signed the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. And this makes U.S. aid to Israel illegal under the Symington Amendment of 1976, which bars economic and military assistance to countries that have nuclear reprocessing technology without submitting to international safeguards and inspections. Now, the law was reinforced by the Glenn Amendment of 1977. So the government is breaking U.S. law to take your money and send it to Israel. And I'm sure they're going to say, well, it's Israel, so that makes it okay. We can break U.S. laws for Israel because, after all, it's Israel, don't you understand? The United States has officially notified Turkey of the cancellation of the sale of the F-35 jet due to Turkey's purchase of the Russian-made S-400 air defense system, which apparently is quite capable, and Turkey thought they were getting more bang for their buck than the competing American system. So the U.S. has basically canceled the 2007 F-35 deal with Turkey, and they're going on to the remaining participants in the program, which is Australia, Canada, Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, and the United Kingdom. Now, given that the F-35 is a piece of junk, according to most experts, the United States may have actually just done Turkey a big, big favor, letting them off the hook for this expensive piece of nothing. Over in Germany, potential upset in their elections, the Greens are polling ahead of Chancellor Angela Merkel's conservative Christian Democratic Union. This is a pivotal moment in German politics, which could have global repercussions. The German Green Party is polling 7 points ahead of Merkel's party and 15 points ahead of the SPD. The Christian and Social Democrats have in various combinations ruled Germany for generations, and they may be about to get the heave-ho. We may be seeing an equivalent dramatic shakeup over in France, because France goes to the polls next year, and Marine Le Pen is apparently gaining momentum, and Macron is losing the support of the French voters. And a large part of that has to do with the COVID lockdowns and the mishandling of the pandemic. And so Macron may be on his way out, and Marine Le Pen may be on her way in. Alrighty, now maybe a hot war has been averted, at least immediately, between Russia and the United States, but the Cold War goes on forever, and that's exactly the way the Pentagon wants it. They don't want to fight a hot war. I mean, that, people get killed, and it's a mess, and they don't want to deal with that. What they want is a revival of the Cold War of the 1950s and 1960s and 1970s, where they soaked the U.S. taxpayer for billions and billions of dollars for constant development of newer and newer weapons. And in the tradition of a Cold War, to grab more money, Admiral Charles Richards, who's the commander of the U.S. Strategic Command, went before the Senate Armed Services Committee calling for a nuclear upgrade aimed specifically at China and Russia. More money, more money, more money. And it was basically a sales pitch to the Senate committee, and basically wants to secure funding for the expansion and upgrading of military programs and weapons. And the weapons he's promoting are capable of ending life on Earth if employed broadly. But, it's making a profit, and that makes it all hunky-dory. That opinion, of course, is not shared by Caitlin Johnston, who is out there saying the rising threat of nuclear war is the most urgent matter in the world. And I think one of the problems we have with our current generation is that the explosion of nuclear weapons is kind of an abstract idea. We've seen movies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the nuclear tests in the South Pacific, but we really don't have a gut sense of just how destructive these weapons are. We're talking about a single bomb destroying an entire city, and most people just don't really get that. And this inability to identify with the destructiveness of nuclear weapons means it's easier to push that button or turn that key. And so Caitlin is out there. This is an article in Russia Today saying this is a bad course to be on, and I absolutely agree. Well, military technology is getting into areas that we probably wish they wouldn't. Down in Mexico, there are two cartels battling for control of El Aguaje, a hamlet in the Aquilala township of Michoacan State. Jalisco New Generation and the rival New Michoacan family, or the Viagras. Yes, that's exactly what they call themselves here. And they're staging attacks using exploding drones. They've acquired drone technology, they are arming them, and they are targeting local police with these modern weapons. Over in Great Britain, they're pressing ahead with a bill that will protect their soldiers from war crimes charges. Now, remember back before we went into Iraq, the United States went around to other countries around the world to secure treaties saying that U.S. officials and soldiers would be immune from arrest for war crimes, which is what telegraphed that we were going to see war crimes such as those we saw at Abu Ghraib. So the United Kingdom government is pressing ahead with this legislation that wants to shield their soldiers from prosecution for any war crimes committed in Iraq and Afghanistan. Really, got something to hide there, guys? Okay. Getting to our local politics now, earlier today, the House of Representatives passed along party lines to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state. This is a purely partisan power grab. The idea is for the Senate to acquire 2 more Democratic senators to cement Democratic control in that body as well. No Republicans voted for this at all, and this means the Democrats are consolidating their party, their power rather, which could have serious ramifications for much of the liberal agenda, including getting rid of the Second Amendment. Getting into the election fraud issue, there's an article coming out of Cuz Blue. Arizona Representative Mark Fincham with Steve Bannon is out there saying that the Democrats know this is a corrupt system they are trying to cover up. And we know how the Democrats are trying to find some way to derail the audit in Arizona, which was ordered by their legislature. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more vote fraud after these few words.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen plan to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through HealthyWorldStore.com.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution claim private retirement funds. Yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash. Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash.
Welcome back to our show here, and again, a reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continuing support so that we can go on doing what we're doing, which is keeping the American people fully informed so that they can make good choices. So once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. Now, if you mail in a donation for $100, you will get your choice of an official RBN coffee mug or an official RBN t-shirt, so please include your t-shirt size and your return address. If you send in a donation for $115 or more, you will get both items. And don't forget, the Front Sight Firearms deal is still on, and that is a really, really sweet deal for you Second Amendment enthusiasts. All right, getting on back to our domestic politics and especially to the election fraud. We're talking about Arizona and the upcoming audit for Maricopa County. And Arizona's Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, is backed by George Soros. She's got all kinds of conflicts of interest, and she's working to try and find some way to derail the audit. And this article that came out of Cuz is calling for her to recuse herself from the issue, and she really ought to. She's not dispassionate. She's obviously there trying to protect the fraud that took place. In fact, the harder they work to try and derail these audits and recounts, the more obvious it becomes that there has been a major, major problem with last November's election. Over in New Hampshire, they're getting ready to select their audit team next week, and they're saying their forensic audit will be completed in the next 45 days. Over in Georgia, Elections Integrity has identified 12,547 illegal votes included in the 2020 election. This is larger than Biden's margin of victory in the state. Okay. Over in Montana, Governor Greg Gianforte, a Republican, has signed into law 2 election integrity bills, one that tightens voter ID requirements and the other eliminating election day registration. And of course, the Democrats are up in arms screaming, it's voter suppression, it's voter suppression. And, and do you realize how racist the Democrats have become? Because their argument out there is black people aren't smart enough to get a photo ID. That's literally the argument they're making. Okay? And it really is absurd. Getting on to Derek Chauvin and the aftermath, fallout, ancillary whatever here. Tucker Carlson went on his show saying that Derek Chauvin's conviction is proof America has bowed to the mob, and warns that unrestrained violence won't stop now because the verdict has taught Black Lives Matter that radicalism and rioting works. And we saw in Portland they went on a riot anyway, even though they got the verdict that they wanted. And now we're hearing stories about how the jurors were afraid that if they didn't vote to convict, they would come under personal harm. And that is not how courts are supposed to work. In fact, there's another story about that very situation. This is from Blabberbuzz, saying, why did Antifa still burn down Portland after Chauvin's all counts guilty verdict? And again, the verdict itself was absurd. There was 1 death and yet 3 guilty verdicts, 2 for murder and 1 for manslaughter. I'm sorry, George Floyd died, but he did only die once. Okay. So this article is out there saying over in Portland, there was a gathering to celebrate the verdict. Authorities declared an unlawful assembly. They made 2 arrests, and at that point, things really began to get out of hand. So Tucker Carlson is right. Caving into the mob in the Derek Chauvin verdict, it's only going to encourage more rioting, because these people have now been given the lesson by the U.S. government. Rioting works. You want somebody burned at the stake, just riot and you'll get it. You want the government to take stuff away from white people and give it to the black people, just go on a riot and it will happen. Story here in Russia Today accusing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris of being crass opportunists for branding the U.S. as systemically racist while standing on George Floyd's grave. I would actually say it's more like dancing on the grave. And there is likely to be an appeal. There are certainly grounds for an appeal. And justice has not been served. But apparently justice is irrelevant to Black Lives Matter and the heads of our government. Oh, we're going to take another break for commercials. More about Black Lives Matter when we come back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
For over 20 years now, Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here is a testimonial from Amazon.com. I received an arterial switch at birth. In my mid-20s, I started getting slight runs of NSVT. Nothing too serious, but enough to cause worry. I started taking Extendivite a little over 2 years ago, and it helped cut the palpitations and NSVT down drastically. This isn't a cure-all supplement. I strongly recommend a good diet and exercise to aid in any heart troubles you may be having. And I strongly recommend giving Extendivite a try. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. A decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor? The preacher man wags his head while the rich man turns
And
away.
welcome back to our show here. We're talking about current events in the United States. And there's an interesting article over at the Gateway Pundit. They're talking about Heather McDonald, who's the author of The Diversity Delusion. And she was interviewed by Rob Schmidt on Newsmax TV, talking about the actual racial climate in the United States. And Heather is a critic of the woke mob and just says they're outright lies about what's going on with policing in America today. And the numbers are, there's a problem between the numbers and the official corporate media fairy tale. 10% of white homicide victims were killed by police. Only 3% of black homicide victims were killed by police, but blacks are dying at a homicide rate 13 times that of whites. Well, gee whiz, I wonder who's killing those black people. It is other black people. And again, I think a good illustration of that is what happened over in Ohio with the Columbus police shooting that black teen female, Ma'Khia Bryant, who was trying to stab two others to death. And the video very clearly shows that this Ma'Khia had a knife. The police told her to drop it. She ignored them and kept on trying to stab this other woman who was pinned against a car. And the police drew their firearm and they fired. And that is what they're supposed to do when you're in that kind of a life and death situation. But that's not good enough for the White House. They're out there along with the woke crowd trying to stoke rage against the police officer. And they've made all kinds of excuses like, well, they should have, not treated her as an adult. They should have done something else. And the police only had 12 seconds. It was 12 seconds from when they got out of the car to when they pulled the trigger, according to the body camera footage. And Jem Psaki was out there saying that, it proves police violence disproportionately impacts black and Latino people. I'm sorry, this girl had a knife and was trying to stab some people. Okay, now maybe the problem isn't racism, it's the fact that we have a violent subculture of black and Latino people in this country that we need to deal with and acknowledge. Valerie Jarrett defended the deadly knife attacks by the young woman, saying that it's a normal occurrence and you shouldn't shoot when they're fighting with knives. Which strikes me as kind of a racist situation, or racist comment right there. But, I mean, it's like we're supposed to ignore this epidemic of violence that's going on, whether it's with knives or clubs or bottles or beer cans or who knows what's going on. But when the police try and do something about it, then all of a sudden it's racism. Now, NBC, you remember when the media tried to edit the video of Kyle Rittenhouse to make it look like he just fired on his victims unprovoked? Well, NBC News got caught editing the body cam footage from Columbus, Ohio, to hide the knife in Bryant's hand just before she was shot. So they're still out there lying to you about this. Now, the unedited video is all over the internet. It's gone viral. Everybody's seen it. Everybody knows what was going on in the streets, and still the media is out there saying, don't trust your eyes. Just listen to what we tell you and believe as we tell you to believe. Okay. Over in Minnesota, a Black Lives Matter mob barricaded a residential street preventing residents access to their own homes. And there was this man who was trying to get to his house. The police arrived. They didn't arrest Black Lives Matter. They arrested the resident for trying to get to his home past the barricade. I mean, that's a really screwed up set of priorities, if you ask me. And meanwhile, a Black Lives Matter mob formed at the scene of the officer-involved shooting death of a black man in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. It's going wacko out there. And there's a lot of crime being reported, and we've started putting it up at whatreallyhappened.com to provide a clearer picture of who it is who's committing the violent crimes in the streets of America, and it isn't the white guys. I'm going to get emails on that one, but too bad. Too bad here. Story coming on out of K4.com. Over in Oklahoma, there is a bill that is about to be signed, or it has been signed, where it will protect drivers who are forced to run over protesters during riots. This was House Bill 1674, was written by Representative Kevin West and Senator Bob Standridge, and it's saying you can protest all you want, but when you start throwing things at people's car and breaking their windows and try to pull them out of the car, it's not a protest any longer. It's what you call a riot. So the bill protects a driver who unintentionally causes injury or death while trying to flee a riot. And obviously the Black Lives Matter liberal people are out there saying it's racist, how could you do it? In fact, Black Lives Matter demonstrators stormed the Oklahoma House chamber over this bill. And the House and Senate were forced to lock their chambers as the protesters entered the Capitol's House Gallery on the 5th floor while the lawmakers were in session. Now, why is this not an insurrection, as we were told the incursion into the Capitol building on January 6th was? And why isn't this getting the news coverage that the January 6th incident did? Because I haven't seen this Black Lives Matter invasion of the Oklahoma Capitol building on any corporate media yet. It's just not out there. This story is kind of a little scary. This is coming from Involve.com. And according to this story, the United States Postal Service, like they don't have enough problems to deal with, is illegally spying on Americans who use social media. And it's a surveillance effort. They're calling it the Internet Covert Operations Program. The goal is to track inflammatory social media posts and report right-wing wrongthink to the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. This is the post office. Neither rain nor snow nor gloom of night shall stay these couriers, blah, 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 blah. But according to a document obtained by Yahoo News, the law enforcement arm of the U.S. Postal Service has been engaged in this covert surveillance effort against the American people. Now, another story on the same topic is coming out of Station Gossip, saying that the post office got their list of conservatives to spy on by going after donors to conservative groups, opponents to the border wall, and that's who they're targeting in their surveillance efforts. Getting into other politics here, Alexandria occasionally has a cortex, is being mocked now for claiming that climate change is caused by racial injustice. Now, she's trying to relaunch her Green New Deal, and she spoke in front of the Capitol to promote her plan, which has a bunch of ambitious targets, such as eliminating all U.S. greenhouse gas emissions within a decade and transitioning the economy away from fossil fuels. All well and good. What's the alternative? That's the biggest complaint I have against all these environmental wackos. They want us to stop using fuel oil and everything. And I agree there are reasons not to use petroleum products, but what are we going to use instead? Burning dung? So now Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying that climate change has to be viewed through the lens of race. It's just insane. All right, let's talk a little bit. Boy, we did have a lot of news today. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. We have a story coming on out of Natural News that COVID-19 vaccine safety is now in doubt as more than 56,000 adverse events have been reported. And interestingly enough, there was a story that came out yesterday that the major pharmaceutical vaccine manufacturers have abandoned their long-term toxicity studies, and they're basically giving their subjects the full vaccine. And in essence, they're just throwing this data out. Never ask a question you don't want the answer to. Columbia University and Yale are going to force their students to get vaccinated for COVID-19. Meanwhile, Pfizer has identified more than 80 fake doses of its COVID-19 vaccine in Mexico and Poland, including one batch that actually had an anti-wrinkle treatment in it. So there's a lot of fraud out there. When you got that much money on the line, you're going to have fraud out there, whether it's fake vaccines or fake vaccine passports. Another story coming on out of Loop Home. The lockdown paradigm is finally beginning to collapse. We're seeing it all around us. They're pulling up those little 6-foot markers at the stores now. And what it really comes down to is that in comparing the infection rates of places that have lockdowns and places that don't, there doesn't seem to be a difference, certainly not one that favors the lockdown continuance. Polls are starting to favor Ron DeSantis in Florida for influence over the GOP in the future, and Governor Cuomo's poll numbers are headed down as well. Because of that same issue. Interesting take on this. What was the reason, if the masks don't work, and Stanford says the masks don't work, and the lockdowns don't work, why are they continuing to do it? Well, there's an article that came out of Zero Hedge quoting a university teacher, Sean Walsh, who says the real reason for the masks and the distancing is to silence dissent, to keep people from talking to each other about what the government is doing and what's going on the path to war. And I think that's a real possibility that that's what's going on. Story out of wolfstreet.com, more and more companies are starting to look at ending the work from home model, but they're finding out that the workers actually prefer to work from home, and even more interesting, mortgage lenders found that remote work actually increased productivity. And so a lot of companies are saying, well, we're going to keep on working from home, and that means that commercial real estate is going to be in surplus, and realtors are going to be crying about that one. Now the story, this one coming out of Humans Are Free. There is a video currently circulating on social media where there was this drive-through COVID vaccine site. Man gets the vaccine at this drive-through site and almost immediately goes into a seizure. So it's amazing. In non-COVID news here, this is from Children's Health Defense, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s site. There's a study led by Christopher Exley who finds that the aluminum content in infant vaccines is largely unmonitored, can vary widely, and sometimes exceeds the amount listed on the product insert. And Exley's team also released a study showing a strong link between aluminum exposure and a type of Alzheimer's disease. And you're probably already aware that there seems to be a body of evidence linking that some of these additives in vaccines with autism as well. And I'd been hearing about the link between aluminum and Alzheimer's for quite some time. So there goes the Jiffy Pop. What can I tell you? Okay, talking about the economic news here, there are growing signs that official trade will soon begin between China and North Korea. So all that, pounding on Kim Jong-un and all the bad-mouthing of North Korea, what has it done? It has driven North Korea into the Chinese sphere of influence. And a source in China basically said that the North Korea-China border will reopen very, very soon. And there's already some shipping traffic out there that seems to support that. Down in Australia, they have canceled their Belt and Road deals with China. China is very upset about this and is warning of further damage to ties. And a senior Chinese diplomat is accusing the Australia of succumbing to U.S. pressure regarding the Belt and Road deal. And China is also accusing Australia and the U.S. of working together on the Huawei ban. So there's it's economic war, and the problem with economic wars is they turn into real bloody wars very, very easily. Story coming on out of Russia today, the Kaiser report is out there looking at the economy and saying there is an overabundance of parasitic elites that are causing problems for society and the economy. Now, I know we're all raised with this idea that anybody can become a millionaire in the United States of America, and that is a flat-out lie. The government cannot allow that to happen. The vast majority of people must be kept poor so that they will work at all of the dull, boring, and messy jobs that the rich people don't want to deal with, like fixing the roads and cleaning out the sewers and burying the dead. And so government works to keep the number of ultra-rich people at a minimum. But if you get overburdened with ultra-rich parasitic elites, it can have a negative effect on the overall economy. Turning to, we're coming up here on another break. We're probably going to be into hour 2 before we open up the phone lines, and I apologize for that, but there's a lot going on. So we'll be back with the immigration news after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the energy cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, And when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop Terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to talk about immigration now. Democrat Rashida Tlaib has sent a message out to Muslims that they are welcome here in the United States of America, and she was responding to a bill passed by the House of Representatives to prevent the Trump travel bans. And there's only one small problem with that, and that is that Trump's travel bans did not specifically target Muslims. They targeted countries that were known to sponsor terrorism, and anybody from those countries, Muslim, Christian, or Jew, were not going to be allowed into the country. But again, they're throwing open the borders. They want to replace the white population with something else that's more obedient and tractable, I would presume. Meanwhile, over in Arizona, their governor has declared a state of emergency at the state's southern border with Mexico, and he has sent the National Guard down there to assist law enforcement officials. And the governor is saying the U.S. Border Patrol is overwhelmed. Local law enforcement and mayors are calling out for help. And he's saying these border communities are concerned for their safety, and nonprofits left to pick up the pieces of broken federal policies are strained. So, good for the governor there. 600 Venezuelans cross into West Texas border town in just 6 days. That's 100 per day. And law enforcement source, speaking on condition of anonymity, reported the illegal entry of more than 200 Venezuelan nationals south of town just yesterday. The large group consisted mostly of family units. They were apprehended by the Border Patrol, and they're now in transit to nearby stations for processing. Well, why not just turn them around and kick them back over that border? You know, that's the way to deal with this thing. Just don't let them in to begin with. There is a legal process to become a United States citizen, and just opening up the borders and allowing anybody to walk across is an insult to all of those naturalized American citizens who went through the proper process. And I imagine a lot of them are just feeling frustration and anger right now at what they had to go through to become a U.S. citizen. Now to look at that southern border and just see people step across the border and say, I'm here, where's my free stuff? Story coming on out of Breitbart. Down at the border again, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer has revealed that they have been instructed to censor the arrest reports. This under a directive from the White House. from Joe Biden. They want to keep the true scale of the crisis under wrap here. Story coming out of uns.com, and we're talking about wokeness here. According to the head of a New York City private school, we got to take a break for station identification. I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. We'll be right back.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Public Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. As a side note, Claire and I are buying long-term storable food from Simply Clean, and so far we're very happy with what we have gotten from them. It's a little unsolicited endorsement on my part here. And to finish up the story that I was on when we went to station identification, we're talking about this New York City private school that is really pushing this critical race theory. They're literally teaching white students that they are automatically inferior just for being born white. I mean, to me, that is definitely racism. And the idea here is they want to demonize white people just for being white. Now, why is that no less racist than demonizing black people just for being black? Okay. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is apparently pumping a lot of money, a lot of grant money into woke education. So they're really pushing this as hard as they can. And to show you how silly all of this is getting, over at this college, students are complaining that the automatic soap dispensers are racist because you have to turn, people of color have to turn their hand over where the white part is showing before the soap will come out. I mean, come on, people. That is just, that's how absurd this is getting. All right, let's take some phone calls, starting with Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good day, Michael. What is on my mind before I get a little bit on the immigration thing you're bringing up, and the guy you called your show yesterday about the statistics. I want to talk about this LeBron. LeBron is getting away with bloody, what, in my book. This guy is, basically saying all whites are this and that.
Yes.
But he don't want to look at the sheer
he's backed off a little bit of it because of the backlash.
Yeah, Mike, because of course he is, because he's being basically told by his handlers, and he's a big supporter of China and
Yes.
all that. So this guy LeBron, he's getting away with filthy nonsense. And Mike, this whole thing has turned out really bad for whites, man, with this Chauvin nonsense.
Yes.
And this thing had nothing to do with race. It's like Marco said yesterday. This guy Floyd and Chauvin knew each other as security guards, Mike.
Yeah, they work together.
They worked together, and they knew each other, and there was a beef. Something must have happened that they haven't even brought out in this trial. They don't even mention it in the trial. They didn't tell the jurors this. They didn't tell the jurors about, Chauvin and Floyd worked together, and there must have been some kind of beef. Maybe he dissed a woman. Chauvin was married, never had kids. He was married to a woman from Laos, Cambodian, whatever. And
Laotian.
Basically, yeah, she won a beauty contest in Minnesota or something. And she basically said Chauvin was a gentleman and all that, blah, 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 whatever. And I didn't realize that Chauvin did have a bunch of awards for saving lives. I don't know if you heard that, Mike.
Yes, I heard that.
He had like 4. Yeah, it was on the news today on Breitbart, and even Drudge had it. That Chauvin was decorated as an officer who actually saved lives, but then he took this guy's life through manslaughter. So, it is what it is. But this LeBron is a filthy pig. And you know what, Mike? I gotta say this. I think I told you this before. And I hope the guy from Jersey calls, and he probably will. Maybe he won't. He probably won't ever call. Who knows? But look, he hasn't said none about all this buffoonery of the Demon Rat Party. But, Mike, if they raised the basket in the NBA to 11 foot, would anybody watch the NBA? Like I told you in the past, Mike, I'd rather watch a bunch of midgets play basketball where they can dunk it at 6 foot, 5 foot. They can put 4. You can't. I mean, a 6'11", 7 foot 4 guy, of course he's going to be able to dunk a 10-foot basket. Now, you raise it up to 11 foot, none of these guys nobody would be watching basketball.
Mm-hmm.
All these white people are, LeBron doesn't realize it, but all the money, millions of dollars he's making is off white people, white fans, not black fans.
Yes.
I don't see a whole lot of black people in the stands compared to white people in this stands. Are being talked like they're sheep or cattle. And this guy, LeBron's got the nerve to talk down, basically white people are bad and all that. And all these other black athletes are going to talk bad about the population. We're the majority. And, Mike, that one guy called your show yesterday. He made a great point, though. Are we really the majority, Mike? Because here in South Florida, we're surely not. And I'm wondering if that's going statewide in the state of Florida. Because the white people are dying off. And these, like you were mentioning about Sweden, these Muslims are coming here breeding like flies. Same with the Central Americans and all these other groups. They're having 4 or 5 birthing babies. Where the white women don't even want to be having a baby for a white man. It seems like, Mike.
Yes.
They don't even like their skin color anymore. So maybe that guy was right that called your show, and he had mentioned about the numbers. I would really like to know what the white population of the United States really is, Mike. It'd be something really be interesting to follow up on, because I think right now, Mike, we're in a total war, like Michael Savage said. Even with the Zionists, they want to wipe out the white Christians in this country. They would love to see the white Christians kill each other between Russia and the United States.
Yes.
That's where their modus of operandi is. And, I don't know if you noticed, Mike, but these Russians have a new weapon like we do. They even have a bigger rail gun than we got. You heard about the rail gun, right, Mike?
Yeah, I've heard about the rail gun, yes.
The rail gun is basically shooting little BBs out, but the BBs are traveling around 4,000 miles an hour. So if you have a BB going at 4,000 miles an hour, actually, it can almost blow up a car.
Well, I imagine it's probably going to bleed energy very, very rapidly. I mean, the railgun is not going to shoot a BB because the BB would lose, momentum in the wind resistance. They're probably going to have something like a tungsten shell, with something to interact with a magnetic field.
Correct.
Yeah, you're only going to get the connection to the target if you have something super dense and super heavy.
That's absolutely correct. That's right, Mike. Well, that's what I meant to kind of say. They were probably using some kind of tungsten or special metal that is unbelievable what the damage it does because it goes at that velocity. But yeah, Mike, getting back to one more thing about immigration, and then I'll let you go. I know you got other callers. I'm not going to take too more time. Mike, this immigration situation with bubbling buffoon Biden.
Yes.
If the white people in this country don't see what they actually are trying to modus operandi they're trying to do, Mike, I can tell you, Mike, they are totally trying to wipe out all the northern states and the southern states with illegal immigration. Okay, Mike?
Yes.
They're just gonna totally change the demographic of this country in the next 10 years. It's gonna be incredible. You'll see it through the vote. You'll see it through jobs. What are all these white Americans gonna do in the New England states when all these illegals are pouring in there? And forget the gang problem, Mike.
Yeah.
Taking away all these jobs that their kids can't get. When you got to compete for jobs here in South Florida, you got to compete with all these different ethnic groups to find a job if you're a white guy or a white woman. It's horrible. I mean, it's terrible. And like I told you, our population down here in South Florida, we're lucky if we're at 11% population, the whites, and that's men and women. And in 1978, Mike, we were almost at 80%.
Yes.
So go figure that one out. California, same thing.
Yes.
Arizona, like you mentioned, Texas. This is all by design, by the swine, Zog, to take out white Christianity. That's all there is to it in my book. And I'll never get off saying that. I'll never get off saying that, Mike, because, a lot of your callers know what's going on. I'm sure you're going to have some other guy. No, listen, I just tell it like it is. I loved it. Mike, Central America, none of those people that are coming through that border had a car. None of them.
Yes.
None of them had a car. None of them had hot water. No, none of them had actually good, clean water to drink. You drink the water in Guatemala or El Salvador, Honduras, you're going to end up with Monzuma's revenge. Okay?
Yes.
And, Mike, Cuba, I can tell you firsthand, Mike, they don't even have a chicken to eat over there. They're lucky they get a chicken to eat a week over in Cuba, Mike. You can't even send medicine over there, Mike. That's how bad it is. Cuba is the
well. Actually, Cuba's got pretty good health care. I mean, it's considered pretty much on a par with what we have here in the U.S. There was that Michael Moore did that one film where he tried to get a wounded veteran into Cuba because the guy couldn't get care in the United States.
Well, Mike, that's true, and Cuba has really good dentistry, believe it or not.
Yes.
But I've been there, and I can tell you, Mike, when you go into the dentist practices in Cuba, Mike, there'll be a line of 150 people in the line.
Yes.
So you have to camp out for 2 or 3 days to see the dentist. And in Matanzas, Havana's even worse, I heard. Matanzas, Cardenas, all these cities, you basically have to stand in a line for days, Mike, to get treated. So, yeah, they give you free health care in Cuba, but you're suffering for it, believe me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it would make sense to me that their dental offices, medical offices like ours, would make appointments in advance, because that's how you prevent lines from happening.
Yes, Mike, like I said, I've been there. I can tell you firsthand. In Cuba, there's lines. Mike, every day when you go in Cuba to have government bakeries, and you actually have to wait in line, there'll probably be 100 people, and by the time you get to get the bread is hard as a rock. It's like a boulder. It's like trying to bite out of a piece of granite. That's how hard the bread is by the time you end up getting it, because they don't have a lot of sugar either. The bread tastes kind of nasty. But, Mike, every day when you go...
Well, that surprises me because, Cuba grows a lot of sugar. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the CIA was down there with Batista, was so that companies like PepsiCo and United Fruit could get the agricultural produce at below market rates. That's what led to Castro's revolution. And, frankly, the Cuba that you're describing doesn't sound like someplace that would be happy with their government at all. And given the recent history of kicking out a bad government, I'm kind of wondering why they're not doing it again.
Well, that's a great point, but I can tell you firsthand, Mike, you can ask any Cuban if you get a chance to talk to any of them that came from there. The food process there is terrible, okay? Yeah, they are a country of sugar. Mike, they were very famous for pineapples. I don't know if you noticed, but pineapples were actually better from Cuba than they were Hawaii back in the day.
Well, they had to spend longer on the cargo ships coming from Hawaii, and so they were actually picked before peak sweetness. And if you live in Hawaii and you know where to go, you can get the pineapples, which are harvested at the correct time. And they call them sugarloaf pineapples, and they're really wonderful.
Yes, they are. But, Mike, Cuba, when you're in Cuba, you don't even see pineapples anymore. When you go to the markets and all that, maybe Havana, you might see a couple of them, but they don't even really grow them in sheer numbers like they used to back, their biggest producer of pineapples back in the 30s and the 40s, Cuba. No, they don't hardly grow them anymore because a lot of the farmers don't even have fertilizer, Mike. It's that bad over there. I've been there, I can tell you. I got connections. It's very bad.
I'd like to hear some other opinions about life in Cuba because, like I said, the picture that you're painting of Cuba, I can't understand why the Cuban people have not revolted again.
That's a great point, Mike, and because they're like robots, Mike, and they're like sheeple over there. Because
well, they certainly weren't that way back when Batista was running the place on behalf of American organized crime.
Well, Mike, a lot of people here in South Florida will tell you the women over there have more balls than the men because they call them the women in white, and you got those women in white. When you go to Cuba, Mike, when you go over there, if you see what I'm talking about, their military is dressed up in olive fatigues, and they're all over the place. They don't have cops like we have. They have one that's like a one government, police government, and it's a police state, Mike. And so, no, it's nothing like people think that Cuba. Yes, they have some beautiful beaches. The beaches are hardly packed. I mean, they got beautiful beaches in some areas. I mean, it's unbelievable. Veradero, you go there, you probably maybe see 10 people out on the whole beach. It's gorgeous. It's sand, beautiful. But Mike,
Tom, before you go, I'm looking at the 2018 census, and the white population percentage in 2018 was 74.6%. The black population was 16.8%.
That's in the United States, correct?
Yeah, Florida's in the United States.
No, well, I know nationally, I believe I heard the Afro-American community is at 13.3%.
No, I'm going from the 2018 census in Florida.
Oh, Florida. Okay, yes, Florida, right.
Okay?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, well, listen, Tom, I got to let you go here.
Get out of Miami, right?
I got to let you go here. We've got other callers waiting on the line, and we're going to switch over to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, yes, I'd like to talk about masks here, and we got to get rid of the masks. And like you were saying, what they want is people not to talk to each other.
Yes.
And that's what it means to be a human being. I mean, human beings talk to each other. Otherwise, they're not human beings. They're just whatever, lockdown. And, and people are going along with it, the mask. They say, well, it's just a little thing. It's a mask. But it's not a little thing. It's a huge thing. A mask is a huge thing. You can't see the person's face. You can't really talk to each other. And they also say, stay away from people. No hugging, no kissing. I go to this gym, for example. This gym has open where they say you don't have to wear your mask.
Okay.
And in Tucson, Arizona, the cops are never given any. There is no law at all now, especially since the governor says you can't tell people not to wear a mask. But nevertheless, our mayor is in conflict. She's a commie. I mean, she's trying to go for the commie career. She thinks she's going to be the next. What's the one from the Puerto Rican girl from New York? Cortex, occasional Cortex.
Yes.
But still, I don't know. People can't get out of the habit of wearing masks. I go to this gym, and one thing about it, some of these people are pretty serious about trying to get in shape, serious athletes, The same way with the bicycle trail. Some of them are actually athletes, and how can you do that wearing a mask? It's so ridiculous. I mean, I just can't. I don't, especially when nobody's making you wear a mask.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a place, and my policy is don't wear a mask unless you have to. They absolutely make you wear one, then you got to do something. You got to whatever. But even then, do it in a protest and just let it slip off your face and so forth. That's what I do.
Okay.
But I bought a car a couple of days ago, a new car. I walked in there. There was a sign that says masks are required. I didn't wear a mask, so I said, what are they going to do now? I walked in. They didn't, but actually, they're not required because they want your money.
Yeah, they want to sell you the car.
Yeah, they're not going to interfere with the business. So they're not going to make you. They don't make you use the damn hand sanitizer, which is poison also, and they don't make you do that. So I had to go get a certified check to buy the new car.
Yes.
I had to go to my bank. I said, for sure, they're going to make me wear a damn mask. No, I walked in. Now they're not making me anymore either. So things are. But this reminds me of a book by Kurt Vonnegut. It's called Timequake.
Yes.
This one was about the planet Earth. There was a time quake where you had a certain point in time. You just replayed the whole world. Just replayed the previous 10 years. So you were there. You're kind of like a zombie. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't correct your mistakes. So you just kind of relaxed as a zombie. But then when that 10 years was over, people didn't know what to do. Because free will had kicked in again. They didn't understand it. There were a lot of car wrecks. This is a comedy book by Kurt. It's a funny deal. But the point is, this guy went around and tried to tell everybody, free will's kicked in again. Free will's kicked in again, and this is what people don't understand. Free will has kicked in here in Tucson. You don't have to wear a damn mask. They're just going on autopilot where they still think they have to. They don't have to. How can that be?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, why are they still wearing it when they don't? I can't understand.
Well, I'm like you. I carry a mask with me in my jacket pocket, and I generally don't wear it unless somebody really wants to be, a jerk about it. We were in the store. Claire and I were in the store earlier today, where the sign is still posted on the front door of the store. Masks must be worn. But nobody other than the sales clerks were wearing one in there. Okay?
Right. It's because a lot of these people are just dumb, and they believe everything that comes over CNN News. By the way, did you ever tell Dustin I bought a book for him?
No, I did not. And I'm going to have to let you go, Don, because we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more callers after these few words.
There, are you going to wait till the cows come home to get your new ease-off drop-and lift?
What in the world is an ease-off drop-and lift?
Our ease-off is a new tool to increase production. Sure, and the ease-off installs fast. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue, speed up your line, and increase profits.
Okay, I'm convinced. Where can I get my ease-off?
Go to easeoff.com. That's EAZEOFF.com. And hurry, because we're offering free shipping for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too.
EaseOff, LLC, 417-932-6419.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show here, and over at Wikipedia, they are reporting that sugar is the principal agricultural economy in Cuba, and they used to export it to the Soviet Union. Now that the Soviet Union is no more, they export it around this hemisphere, except, of course, to the United States because of the embargo, and it accounts for roughly $370 billion every single year. So I think it is not accurate to say that Cuba does not have sugar. We're going to go back to the phones here to Jefferson at his little homestead, and what is on your mind?
Genetically modified E. coli, you feed it.
Say again?
Toxic waste, and its excrement is... Oh, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Jefferson.
Hello? Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on the air.
Oh, my gosh. Mike, I had no idea. Mike, I got so much to share with you. I had so much fun because I've been using this phone. How do I sound so far?
Well, so far, so good.
No, should I turn it up or down? I just got a new headset and thing to hook up to my phone.
No, you're fine. Just leave it where it is.
Okay, so let me continue. So I went out to Best Buy just a short while ago, maybe an hour, and I said, I'm going to get what I want, regardless of what they say. So I'm a powerful man because I'm a man of will, and that's what we need to be. And I wanted to respond quickly to Tom there. He's talking about the woman. Did you know the woman is made out of spirit? And if the two cross, there's no harmony. You need a man of will with a woman of spirit, and made together make harmony. And like I've got a woman of spirit, and she's a clairvoyant, and that's why we're powerful when we go. So anyways, we went to Best Buy, okay? And I wanted to get this little pin for my headset that I had, convert the smaller into the larger pin size to go into my phone. So I go to the front door there at the Best Buy, and I said to the guy there, I said, look, I need my little pin for my thing there. And he goes, well, you must go on the internet and do this by online. And I said, what are you talking? I don't have internet, and I don't have online. I'm just a simple man. And then he goes, well, you're going to have to do it that way. And I said, look, I need you to speak to your manager. And he goes, I'm the manager. And I said, well, okay, I want your name and your card because I'm going to report this. You can't define me of what I need. So anyways, you know what he did? He actually shut the doors, and then they called the police. Now, I didn't know if he called the police, but they made me wait a long time. So I said, the heck with this. He got the police on the go. So I went to Staples, just down the road, and I did the same thing there. Right? So I went up to the door at Staples there, and I met one man, and I was very adamant because I'm a strong man of will, right? So I said to this young man who's standing there, right? And I said, look, I need this little pin to convert my little headphones from he's talking about from 3.5 mil. And I said, well, I guess what I got is a 2.8 mil. I don't know, but I want to convert it to a 3.5.
Yes.
To plug it into my phone so I can make it work because I have an iPhone. So anyways, the young man said, well, we can't actually do that. You have to call online. I said, look, please, you're a young man. I can't call online. I don't have internet. So I don't have any of this stuff. And I don't even have a phone. So what you got to do is maybe search what I need. So anyway, I said, look, I need you to speak to your manager. So he called his manager. And you wouldn't believe who came to the door. It was a guy named Mohammed. And I said, wow, now I can talk to someone real. So I said, look, young man, you surely understand because you're a man of God like I am, right? I mean, I don't really believe in God, but I act as if God exists, right? That way I'm covered.
Okay.
So anyway,
is this going someplace, Jefferson?
Yes, it is. Most definitely. He actually fully cooperated with everything I said, and he did everything in order, even though I only had cash. And he was so accommodating. I actually said, look, you are a blessed man in this world. And then he asked me, he says, who are you? And I said, well, believe it or not, I'm a shepherd here sent for this time. And he couldn't believe it. But anyways, I got a full headset and everything I need. And he even gave me half off because he said, look, it's on sale today. And I said, really? How did that happen? And he goes, because of the way you are. And I said, thank you, young man. Obviously, I was meant to meet you, Muhammad. So I got everything I need. And look at me. I'm ready to talk on the show. That's all, Mike. I say it very fast because I have so much information to say. It could go on forever. So have a great day, eh?
All right, thanks an awful lot for the information. And, the big box stores are definitely going on the model where they'll stock what is going to sell to the largest number of people. But specialty items, they're saying, go on the internet. And if you don't have internet access, it is becoming a serious handicap in today's modern world. All right, we're going to switch over to Joe in Hawaii. And aloha, Joe. I'm probably going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. It's actually George. I've called before. Enjoy your show a lot.
Okay. Hello, George.
Remember when you lived in Hawaii and
yes,
good work you did for some of the homeless people. That was a wonderful thing. But I'm calling about the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis. Followed that gavel to gavel on TV, 4 o'clock in the morning. Having a pretty good time. And I watched the entire thing, including the sentencing. Not the sentencing, but the verdict.
Yes.
And I was quite impressed with the way it came down. Let me tell you what I saw, because I've been in law enforcement for a while. I've been in the business, know a little bit about it. And what I saw, Mike, was normally when police officers get convicted for crimes against the citizens, or basically violating their duties, it's generally because they use excessive force with weapons, firearms. But
okay, George, I'm going to have to put you on hold. Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org. and click on our online store. Or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Born in the city with a silver spoon, great-grandson of the oil tycoon, raised by wolves, thinks he owns the moon, socialist banker to the one-world goons, Davy Rockefeller, chairman of the CFR.
Welcome back to our show here, and we have phone lines open right now, area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with George in Hawaii about the Derek Chauvin trial, and I think the real issue at this point is there is no way that the trial can be considered untainted by all the politics that surrounded it.
Yes, Mike, and I would agree with that totally, because normally in a situation where the police use excessive force, it normally involves a firearm. So the cases are usually closed, normally assault and battery on a police officer or whatever, but the defendant or the dead person normally is just buried. In this case, what we saw was a lynching. We saw 4 men in blue uniforms literally take a guy out of a car, subdue him, put him on the ground, string him up, cut off his air, deprived him of oxygen, and then basically walked away. The only difference here is we didn't have a gun, and they weren't wearing white robes and white hoods. But that was the effect of what the world saw, Mike. They didn't see anything where the cops used weapons or tasers, anything like that. They saw a basic 1930s-styled lynching. And the jury was smart enough to recognize that, and I commend them for that. And I'm a very proactive law enforcement guy.
Okay.
But I know a lynching when I see one. I know.
Well, I think that George, I think Chauvin deserves a retrial. And I think those other 3 officers, I think it's politically motivated that they're going to go on trial. And again, it's hard to know exactly what did happen because of all the media disinformation that has been floating around. The bottom line is we don't actually have a firm grasp on what happened during that takedown. Now, I think it could have been handled better. But I think 3 guilty verdicts for murder and manslaughter is a little bit over the top considering there's only 1 death.
Well, Mike, that's the way you normally charge in a case where the death ensues. You normally charge multiple counts. In case you miss one, you hit them on another. That's normal charging procedures. But if you're unable to recognize a lynching when you see one on television in front of your very eyes, and you
my understanding of a lynching, and I'm not just talking about, the rope and the noose and everything, is the lynchings involve just picking a black guy at random just stringing him up as a warning to other black people, and that obviously is a wrong thing to do. But again, Chauvin and Floyd knew each other. They worked together. There was definitely something else going on between them, but we don't know. In any event, regardless of who did what to whom, this is not how trials are supposed to take place in the United States of America. Anyway, George, we're going to let you go here. The phone lines are filling up, and we're going to switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, I utterly disagree with what that gentleman just said about a lynching.
Yes.
I want to, I know you're a dog lover. I've heard you say it before. I know there's a lot of dog lovers
Yes.
in the audience, and I want people to think about something. We've had different evolutionary, primary evolutionary things going on here. For about the last 1,000 or 2,000 years in North Asia and in Europe, all over Europe pretty much, there's been a relative developed economy with agriculture and specialization of labor and things like that. And one of the things that has developed is the rich guy, or maybe even the clever, smart guy, gets the girl. And that
wasn't my experience growing up. I mean, the rich guy gets the girl, the clever guy gets to do the girl's homework, and then she runs off with the football player.
Well, but what I'm saying is up until 100 years ago,
Yes.
all over Africa, really, they were hunter-gatherers. And there was no developed economy and almost no agriculture. And who got the girl? Well, the big, strong guy was the chief. Right?
Yes.
He got the girl. And what you see now is a group of people who are supremely physically talented, but who also, lamentably, as a rule, not to say there aren't brilliant black people, there are, but as a rule, score, 15 points lower than whites and even more.
Yeah, and that's why the liberals are denouncing IQ tests as racist.
Yeah, and I wanted to just point something out to the animal lovers here, the dog lovers. A greyhound, a German Shepherd will never beat a greyhound.
Yes.
Right? In a race, but they're not as well suited to be, blind dogs and seeing eye dogs or police dogs or whatever. They're maybe too skittish, and you can't get a bulldog to retrieve something in a swamp to retrieve a duck. And there's some breeds that you really have to watch a little more than others. You don't put pit bulls. You have to watch them a little more, around children and things like that. Maybe a Doberman, maybe some of the really aggressive breeds. You have to watch a little closer.
Yes.
They've been bred for different reasons. And you have to wonder, with the enormous discrepancy, both in the achievement tests and also in crime, if that doesn't apply to society at large. And I don't know what you do with that, because there are tons of brilliant and law-abiding black people.
Yes.
But it's something that we really needs to be confronted, because there seems to be a prevalence of almost no impulse control. And another thing a dog breeder will tell you, Mike, is if you've got a dog, especially if you've got a pit bull or a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler, they'll say, don't pick out the biggest puppy in the litter. And why, you ask? That's what I asked. I said, well, because they're used to getting their way through physicality. And that translates a lot of times throughout the life of the dog. And if you can get your way through physicality, I would tell you it also translates through the life of a human. And if you're walking down the street and there's a 5'2" Asian and there's a 6'2" black guy who runs like the wind, you might be tempted more than a 5'3" Asian to taking that person's, because he can physically. I mean, you do what you can to a large extent. But at any rate, I just wanted to raise that. I don't know what we can do about it, even if I think it deserves a little science investigation. I know they suppress the hell out of it.
Yes, they do.
And I don't know what we do with the results. But I think there is a real difference there. It has to explain, other than the 75 or 80% illegitimacy, or one parent in the black community, which has another profound influence, not only nature but nurture too. But there's something there that makes them 13 times more violent than just about anybody else. And just food for thought. And the question I want to ask is, if you could come follow the science and come out with a real difference, genetic, nature, nurture, whatever it is, then what could you do with that?
You wouldn't do anything with it because it would be denounced as racist. I mean, we've seen that done with IQ tests. We've seen that with the crime statistics. There's this push for equality, and they really, they want equality of outcome, at least in terms of the public perception.
Yeah, it's like you go to the NFL Combine and you don't allow them to do the 40. Or the vertical jump or something, and you have to draft, with some guy that jumps a foot less than they do and runs a second slower. Nobody would put up with that.
No, they wouldn't. Of course,
we have to. But by the way, they're saying that the genetics of a white guy is genetically, racist, since they're saying that's hardwired into us. We know that's a lie, but we know that the crime numbers aren't a lie. We know that the IQ numbers aren't a lie. And so, whatever. Just a little food for thought. I thought I'd put that out there. And I'm not putting anything, because the people that I love most in my life are black. My daughter and my wife. Although my wife sometimes I have a little issue with, but she's smarter than I am, and my daughter is much smarter than I am. And much better heart, too. However, there's a difference there we need to look at. Just saying.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call and your opinion. We have phone lines open right now, area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking the call about the George Floyd. Your previous caller, the one before Peter, called it a lynching, and I don't see that at all. I think... from what I saw, George Floyd probably OD'd on drugs. He was sitting there spazzing out like a little child in the car.
Yes.
Saying he can't breathe, struggling the whole way. And the real lynching is against this cop because they wanted to, talk about racism and make it a racial thing. So that's the real lynching, is the media convicted him. You have these politicians
you're right.
interfering.
You're absolutely right.
So it'll be interesting because the other cops that were there, I think one was Asian, the other one was half black. So let's see. I think they'll just not talk about this trial anymore and just call it a big act of racism and ignore the fact that the other cops weren't even white. But, people brought up the fact that the EMTs didn't do much with Derek when they got there, but according to their testimony, they got there. There was a hostile crowd, a bunch of people yelling at him, taking cameras. The guy testified he went up and Derek was dead. So he said, whatever we do, we'll just get him in the ambulance out of this situation and, work on him, try to resuscitate him then. But, and the knee on the neck, it wasn't even like choking him, actually. It was just kind of up on his shoulder. So, I mean...
Yeah, so that's another part that kind of got, fuzzed out by the corporate media coverage is, was the knee really on the neck or on the shoulder? And is a knee on the shoulder considered an acceptable way of keeping somebody immobilized?
Yeah, and that's according to their training. I mean, if he was not... If he could say, I can't breathe, he could breathe. And he was saying that in the car. He was saying that the whole time they were trying to arrest him. So, and I, when I first saw that case, I thought, oh, he broke his neck or something. But no, that's... so the whole thing is just, It's pretty sickening to watch. I mean, I was home off work for a few days watching the cable news, and I just at a family member's house, and that's why I canceled cable. I mean, that's literally all that's been on TV.
Yes.
Racism and all this kind of crap, and so to me, that's the lynching. So it's and the police chief, I don't think was a white guy, but he kind of threw him under the bus. You had, a lot of his, they call it the thin blue line. I mean, at some point, I don't think he intentionally tried to kill them. Like, I could see maybe a third-degree manslaughter unintentional.
Yeah, there was no intent to harm George Floyd, and that's why I agree with you. The one who got lynched was Derek Chauvin.
I agree. So it's sad. It'll be interesting. I'll bet you money that they won't even they'll just drop this case when it comes to like the other two cops, and they'll be put George Floyd on the dollar bill pretty soon, and put him in the history books as great hero. But anyway, all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad it's over, I guess.
Well, we've got the sentencing coming up in June, and I imagine that Black Lives Matter, they're going to be out there screaming, for the death penalty or life in prison without parole, and if they don't get that, they'll start rioting again over there in Portland. All right, well, Dan, thank you very much for the phone call. The phone lines are completely open right now, area code 512-248-8252. Getting on back to the news here was an interesting little story that came out of Domagood.com. This happened in Kentucky, which is just a little over that way here. There was a gentleman who was wrongfully jailed for 14 months on child porn charges, and when they realized that the guy was innocent and they let him out, the prison billed him $4,008 for his stay. Now, I think that is absurd, and I'm expecting that somebody's going to say, no, you don't have to pay that. But it really, that is insane. Another story coming on out of station gossip in Manhattan, and we heard kind of rumblings about this a little while ago, about lower-level crimes being ignored. Manhattan is no longer going to be charging prostitutes and unlicensed massage purveyors, but if you are a customer of a prostitute or a masseuse, you will be prosecuted for that, which kind of seemed like a double standard here. Little bit of good news, and I would say this is in the category of it's about time. The owner of the Daily Mail newspaper and Mail Online has filed a lawsuit against Google for downranking the search results. Now, Google is saying this is completely meritless. But the lawsuit claims that Google punishes publishers who don't sell enough advertising space in its marketplace. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, we're coming up on another commercial break here. This story really made me kind of ill. They have arrested and sentenced this 24-year-old man up in Illinois, 45 years in prison for sextorting minors in 8 states. Just sick behavior. We're going to take a break for commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here, last segment of our program today, and we're going to go to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello?
You're on the air.
Hey, smartest thing I heard was the guy that said, get rid of your cable TV. The world wouldn't look the way it looks to you if you weren't watching an idiot box programming you for it to look the way it looks to you. This is a white country, not primarily it's going to get turned over if y'all white people don't do something about it. But my point is, how does a white country elect a black president? 13% of the population on average is black. How did you get Barack insane Obama in there?
Well, you know, we can't rule out that we can't rule out that there was massive election fraud in that election. But I think Obama was definitely helped by the fact that a lot of people just did not like Bush.
Well, and in the second one for sure. No, I knew a lot of people that really dreamed that Obama was going to be that one.
Yes.
He was going to be that guy. I had that same feeling about Bill Clinton. He was going to keep our jobs in America. Remember when he was
I remember that one.
And 6 weeks in, he passes NAFTA with a lame duck Republican Congress, and I was like, damn, he lied to me. And that was my first taste of lying politicians. So for people who keep thinking that they're going to scream, and I got to say, God help you, I love Tom. I appreciate what his sentiment is, but I just can't do it anymore. I can't go in that loop where we just complain and complain. And the white women. Dude, it's about freedom. Black, white, brown, yellow, whatever. We just want to be free. We just don't want to have our pockets picked. We don't want to be extorted. We don't want to be bullied. That's what it's about. And if you keep going to the white women and the white men and the white and the white and the white, you just, first off, you're spinning your wheels. I don't see any power there. Okay? Are you paying taxes? Then you're contributing to it.
Yes.
Are your children in school? then you're contributing to it. Are you still shopping with Amazon and Walmart and big box stores? Then you're contributing to it. Nothing's going to change until we change. To sit and to keep complaining and bitching and moaning. Can you eat that? Can you spend it? Can you sleep in it? And in the end, the answer is no. We are wasting a lot of time. Get on the phone to your congressmen, your senators, and tell them what's going on. And I'm not one that calls those people to tell them anything. But what I'm saying is they're more afraid of the blackmail material that's held on them, of the threats to their children's lives. You know, these people are, you know, Wellstone, Kennedy. I mean, how many do we have to name that have been murdered?
Yes.
Just
Vince
for trying
Foster.
to get the truth out there. James Trafficant. Beam me up, Scotty. Remember him?
Yep.
I mean, look what they do to the people that try to help you. And so what I'm saying is we have to help ourselves. Stop paying taxes you don't owe. If you owe taxes, pay them. If you work for the government, you owe taxes. Other than that, you don't have the fruit of your labor to anybody. Quit giving it to them. Because look what they're doing with it. They just cruised through $5 trillion and looking for another $4 from you.
Yeah, they're spending it like there's no tomorrow. All right, well, listen, Lauren, I'm going to have to let you go because we are at the end of the program, and I apologize to the caller waiting on hold. Try and call back a little earlier tomorrow. We'll get you on the air with your comments and questions. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Aloha, America.